Progress.
Sorry.
Good evening and welcome to a special meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is October 25th, 2022, and it is 6:00 p.m. May we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Mr. Boggs,
Present.
Ms. Bouchard,
Present.
Ms. Olson,
Here.
Ms. Marino,
Present.
currently not present. Caitlin, can you take this microphone?
I would love to. Those are deadly peanut butter toast, by the way. Okay, is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
So moved.
There a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have no members of the public present, so we will move on past privilege of the floor. On to starting off our discussion on or continuing our discussion, I should say, on the 2023 tentative budget. Michelle, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So as we all know, we've reviewed the A fund and the SMSF funds. And so we're going to be starting off tonight with the B fund. And just to review the highlights for the B fund, which I think we're all pretty familiar with at this point. In the 2023 budget, what's included in that is the comprehensive plan update and some funding for things as needed. We've also included a planning and zoning, some administrative support for the planning, zoning and code office. And also included in the 2023 budget is the purchase of a new vehicle for the B fund, electric vehicle. So those are the highlights. Oh yeah, and then we also have water related matters, a couple small lines regarding some long-term water planning that will be needed. And the rural water study, there's a small amount of money in there for expenses related, and if needed in there. So
Was water storm or was that water potable?
well, for the rural water study, that's all potable water, right?
Source
Focused-
water
yeah.
protection plan. That's the.
So that's more like storm water, right?
Well, not really. It's.
Wells and stuff.
Yeah, well, it's source water, all the drinking water. I mean, the lake is drinking water here.
It's not like.
The water district,
knows
well,
that.
the water districts are drinking water in this town,
Uh-huh.
so it's encompassing everything. They're gonna look at. And do a survey. Of townwide water needs survey. The first meeting on that is November 1st with the technical specialist from. New York Rural Water. Here at 4:30. If more than just one other person besides me is going to be there, we should need to make it a time board meeting, so. If anybody really wants to go. Should say so.
But is it December 1st?
November 1st.
Is it
30.
Zoomable?
I don't know. I need to talk to the clerk about that, who just got back. So we haven't had time to confer on that yet.
Okay, if
It's
Zoomable,
in
I mean,
person. Because we really wanted everybody to meet.
Yep.
Him to start out and to meet each other. So. The goal was in person, but. We might be able to do hybrid, but. I haven't been able to. Look into that yet.
So, those are the B fund highlights, and the version that you have, the hard copy version that you have reflects the conversation that we had last time on the 11th, which is increasing appropriated fund balance by 32,000 and decreasing the revenue line 3902.
Wait, where is that? That's on this big? Yes, but it wasn't on the small thing. You said.
Correct.
Okay, so this has changed from what was sent with the meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So, is there any lines that we want to discuss or look into?
On B fund.
My only comment. This is not proposing a change. Is that when you look at the electric vehicle. There is like a shortage of them. If we quickly, we won't get too caught up in like absolutely having to have it if we.
No, and the other thing is too, is we're waiting for there's the 7,500 rebates, essentially credit. For municipalities is expired. We're anticipating it will be renewed. And we'd like to take advantage of that as well, but it's really a holding pattern, because if the right deal came along.
Yeah, that's.
We wanted flexibility, but no, it is not we are going to buy regardless of what's available on the market, of which there is nothing.
Yeah.
So Michelle did a look already. It was a very slim is not even the
Slim.
word you could use.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be overly robust of a term,
Yeah.
I think, for what you found. So, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of demand for the next couple of years in particular,
Yeah,
but
hopefully we can slide in, but.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, we put out 2 or 3, almost, was it 2 or 3 Right.
Yeah.
bids? Because we were trying to, we
does that
talked
go out
about
like
that a
that?
lot at the board here.
Like on a fleet kind of thing? Is it?
No, it was just a thing a program that they had for municipalities, but you had to do it by
Oh,
September 30th or something, and it had to be in your fleet by December. I mean, there was like one on Long Island that you wouldn't come in until December or something, but
Yeah.
I think it's gonna get renewed, and
Mhm.
so we can keep putting out those bids, doesn't really hurt, and then
Good.
if you happen to get something and they say the delivery's in, 5 or 6 months, then you're in the line for it. And Terry Carroll down at County Sustainability has offered anytime, if we start to get a line on a particular type of vehicle that we could buy, that they have a whole range of EVs, because they've been building up their EV fleet down there.
mhm.
And so we could go look at could look at them and decide, what they think, so. And he's willing to be helpful on it, because that's one of his major jobs, so
Mhm.
I think we can probably get something. It's just, yeah, it's hard.
I think the only other thing was what your comments were, right, with the ARPA funds that had to do with the B fund, right?
And those are in here.
Yeah, the comp plan.
Mhm.
Except maybe we can take out the thing that says comp plan grant dependent in the notes line there.
What page you on?
I'm on the B fund appropriations. Page 5 of this big thing. Line,
Oh, sure, yeah.
line 22.
Oh, yeah.
Take that out, because it means that it's gonna be in,
Just scratch it up.
yeah.
Okay.
And. Right. Right, and so. And then in the state aid planning, it seems like that. We shouldn't have 32,000 in there, because we don't know that we're getting 32,000. I mean, that's not like a known revenue right now, is it? So we could have that line there, and then if we get the grant, we put the 32,000 in, but it doesn't seem like we should have that in as a revenue line.
I mean, 33,000
The 32,000 on page 6.
page, next page.
Page 6, 56, line 56. Thanks for putting the line numbers.
I know, that was actually Michael's suggestion last year.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good one.
that should be,
You make
it says,
so mean.
okay, so the change from 10, so.
So under the
what's the
preliminary
line?
budget,
Okay, the line is 0, so that's,
Correct.
that's
Yep.
the way it should be, okay, right, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I have just a general question about the parking lot too. Now that we're still gonna do the engineering study for the parking lot design. Like we changed the budget in the A fund before, but are we still thinking we should do a redo of the parking? Like, what's the thinking on the parking lot now that they did the patching?
Well, the patching is this patching, when I talked to Scott, it's not a permanent patching. He thinks it, depending on the season and how bad the winter is, we're looking at possibly 18 months under the current patching. Personally, I'd like to limp the parking lot along if possible for multiple reasons. Good use of existing resources, saving up money as we go, and being able to not be dependent and forced to replace the parking lot, but be able to be creative do a design that actually could be the next 20+ years.
Right,
And so, I think the thinking is this is buying us time.
so we'll still do the.
Yeah, no,
design.
the intention was. still
That
to do the
hasn't
design.
changed in terms of the intentions.
No, but I think this is all better on our vehicles and, and our ankles.
No, I think it makes
So,
sense.
and
I
it was
just
very affordable.
I
Yeah,
just
no, it wasn't
thought
changing any
Since that
plans.
just happened, I'd follow up on that.
No, it was so affordable to do and it was easy to work into the schedule that it seemed
Yeah.
like a no-brainer to take
Right.
advantage of it.
Well, it makes it not get worse. with plowing and
Exactly.
Everything in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the earliest we were looking at doing it anyway was 2024, so
Right.
this will at least get us
Yeah.
to 2024.
Well,
If that's,
great.
Speaking of paving, non-sequitur, did you see they fixed that other section on 96?
Yeah,
Did that
the
today.
dip. You mean
Oh,
the-
today? I thought it was.
No, the whoop-de-doos, they did a few days,
Oh, yeah.
a week or so ago.
Right.
I emailed them a couple times, so I was like, oh, I'm sure they did it because of that. But there was a culvert that was flooding too, but when they did the other one, where the pavement got cold,
Mhm.
and it was, everybody would go over the shoulder to go through the two smooth spots.
Yep.
Yeah, they just did that section today.
Oh, that's great. I haven't been down 96
Yeah.
today.
Well,
Thank you for
ride
that
your bike
report.
down, I didn't notice it.
Yeah, my bad.
Oh, yeah.
And then just to be explicit about the parking lot is that it's not currently budgeted, but we have earmarked contingency in case we're able to.
I thought we
Pursue.
moved 5,000 out of contingency and into engineering.
Is that what we did?
Yeah, on page 2, I think it's a 1990.4 contingency. Minus 5,000 moved to engineering for parking.
Oh,
and
gotcha, yeah,
design. So we
cool.
did do that.
Yep, there it is. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries, I just wanted to. make sure.
Yep, good call.
And I just had one thing that I sent an email about, but it was pretty late in the day when I noticed it. Is I just am thinking that it's not entirely correct to call this on the link on the town board page for the public, the preliminary budget, because that's a thing that you vote on, and then the preliminary budget is what the public hearing is on, and so I feel like that could be really confusing that
Right.
it's called the preliminary budget for this meeting, so,
So the link got changed already. hours
okay,
ago.
well, I didn't get an answer, so that's fine, it's fine, I just wanted to, because it is a procedural thing in the budget thing.
So is there anything else in D fund that anybody wanted to talk about? If not, we can move on to DB. And then I don't
Or
wanna move-
DA.
DA, sorry, yeah, DA. DA comes next, I was skipping a page.
So, for both the DA and the DB funds, I would say that, there isn't anything outside, there's no large purchases. We're on year 2 of 3 of, a flat payment for a piece of equipment that will hopefully be delivered next year. So I think the only thing outside of routine or ongoing, operations in the highway is that, as you all recall, we applied for that DEC non-point source
Right.
planning grant. And that grant included 6 culverts, including the Curry Road Bridge, which we'll be talking about until we find the funds to pay for the planning and the replacement. If we don't get the grant, or either way, really, that bridge does need to be inspected. So we have money set aside in the DA engineering line for that,
Which one is that?
the Curry
Curry.
Road. And we call it a bridge because it looks like a bridge, but it's really, according
It's
to the
It's
state,
your aspirational bridge.
Yes.
If we're gonna make it a bridge though.
it is a culvert that is 100% the town's
If
financial.
it was a bridge,
responsibility.
would it not be 100% the time?
It would be 100% the county.
That's
and we're
right.
gonna-
The foot.
It needs a foot and we're gonna get a foot into it.
Oh, really? Oh,
And
my
the- and
goodness.
the county knows. And-
Yeah.
And of course, I'll say this because we're, on, in public session that it will be designed for the correct solution versus us trying to make it a bridge.
Right.
If it really truly doesn't need a bridge, it's not gonna be a bridge, but it does seem like that's the direction it's heading.
in like length.
Yes,
I
Well,
don't know,
and-
how long is the whole thing?
19 and a half
Wow.
or something like.
So-
that.
Yeah, and when I talked to our, and I talked to MRB, it's the most likely on their assessment, it's going to become a bridge. It's not a.
Well, I was gonna say, that's a pretty small error in the overall, it's worth checking again.
Well, it was a bridge,
Mhm.
and then the state took the PIN number away from it, so, or the VIN number rather, so, in the like mid-90s. I think so, because they redefined what a bridge meant throughout the state, so it took a bunch of bridges off of their rolls and put it on local government rolls, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only, thing that I think really, we have a functioning paving plan that Scott will be following, and
No
so,
major purchases,
no major purchases.
the maintenance budget,
Yeah.
basically.
And so, and not adding anything into the reserves.
In the
And the
the DA fund, yes.
You feel like they're,
Oh, yeah, so for both of those, that bridge reserve, so we're on page 7 on lines
51.
33 and 34.
oh, I just had appropriations, sorry.
Yeah, that would be if we were using them like, oh, did you, sorry.
No,
I
I'm
cut you off.
asking
Did
if you're not suggesting putting any. You're putting in. You're not suggesting putting any money into the reserve funds on the DA.
In,
The
Sorry, what was that?
appropriations,
Appropriations are us adding.
and it
Right.
doesn't seem like there are
Um,
any reserve appropriations. Is that right?
so on line
repair.
33 and 34,
Oh,
under the tentative
oh, right,
budget,
I'm on the wrong
No.
page, sorry.
it's okay, it's actually on the
Pages are
same
so
page,
big.
just a little bit.
Yeah, right, okay, I'm in the wrong
So,
spot on the page.
We're
got it,
adding,
yeah.
we're adding
I see
50,000.
it, yeah, yeah.
Yep, to the bridge, yep. And that one, at this point, given the status of the financing for the Curry Road, our target funding for that bridge reserve is sort of as high as we can get it,
Yeah.
because that bridge is gonna be
in
over a
case we
million.
Have to do it, yeah.
Yeah, and that bridge, that reserve can be used for cash flow if we do get funding.
Mhm.
And knowing what we have coming up as far as culvert replacement, I would say that is underfunded. That is
Yeah,
definitely
okay,
underfunded.
I was looking at the appropriations line, the wrong place, I was looking at the wrong
Gotcha.
place. I was looking under revenues, because it's all one thing and it was crunched and I didn't quite see it, so I was on the wrong line, but I got it now, thank you.
And, just since we're talking about reserve additions in the DA fund, I'll just say that capital equipment reserve, that 70,000 addition is based on our capital plan. So the capital plan suggests that we add that much this year, so.
Any other DA funds? We are not the district attorney, but.
So on the
DA,
2022 end of year projection. Appropriations are 799 and the revenues are 599.
Yep, so we'll be appropriating fund balance. You can see in the 2022 modified budget that our planned appropriation was 250 in that, so
So we're taking a little more or no?
a little less than our planned appropriated amount.
Or fund balance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so are we on track to use that?
Based on our end of year projections, which, are
Right.
always.
Right, I know,
our best
but
guess.
Projections.
projections.
yep. And I can tell you, for instance.
But we are on track to need most of that.
Yeah,
Based on the
um,
current,
I can tell you one thing
Tracking.
that's changed since we did our end of year projections, and this is another example of one of those things that if we had an infinite amount of time, we could be updating this throughout the budgeting process, but we don't.
yeah.
On line 42, the equipment sales, we actually did just get the check back for that grade all, which went to auction.
Mhm.
We had guessed 2,000, we got 6,800, so.
Nice.
Yeah,
Right.
yep, so that was good news, even though we had planned more than that, the 10,005 was what was budgeted, so.
Does the scrapping go into that also?
Scrap, I think, is a different line, yeah. it's right
Oh,
above
sales
that,
and
yep.
scrap, which is right above it, sorry, yep.
So that'll be balanced out at your next update or something,
What will?
the 2022 end of year projection.
We haven't really ever had a formal process to update our end of year projections. Basically, what I do is monitor each of the financial statements after we pass the budget. I monitor each of the financial statements and compare it to our end of year projection to see if we're gonna get in trouble anywhere. So, yeah, those end of year projections are sort of when we're calculating fund balance for the first time, when we're putting up a tentative budget. So we don't have,
It kind of doesn't matter after you establish the budget
unless you underestimated
Yeah.
an expense,
Right.
by a lot.
right? Right.
Yeah,
So, if there's something that comes up later in the year, in January 1st, that's when we would be doing a budget modification to reflect if something like that happened, which, Lixie and I have a process for monitoring it month to month, so.
So could you just explain the non-property tax distribution, that's the sales tax, right?
Mhm.
That line, so 37?
Yep.
So the modified budget is 125, 925,
Mhm.
and year to date is 84. So why is the year end projection 152?
So the finance committee agreed on a concept regarding how we're estimating sales tax, which was a pretty critical point because we're using our end of year projection for this year to estimate 2023. And we're also doing it by leaps and bounds more than what we have in the past. It's a more realistic estimation of that. We've always fairly underestimated that. So that's based on a formula, based on our budgeted amount of sales tax revenue, we distribute it throughout those 4 funds. And that proportion continues throughout the year, even when we go over budget. So that is based on sales tax through August, I think, and that's another number that we will be looking at very closely as the year goes on to ensure that we haven't overestimated.
So in 4 months, the estimation is that you're gonna get almost $70,000 more,
Mhm.
the same amount that you got in up through August.
Is it through, no, it was through July, maybe. Now I have to look.
It's just a
A big
big
number, yeah.
difference, and so I was curious.
Received sales tax since, I believe, June or July. I put it in the last financial analysis that I did.
I think it was July, we thought, because
Okay,
July
so-
took a.
Actually, I think it's June.
Is it
So
June?
that
So
one's
it's June that
probably
took
not
it.
through August. The
Right,
rest of the
correct,
stuff is,
yeah.
but that's not-
I think
okay.
it's through June,
Well, that would make some more sense to me,
Yeah.
just curious.
but also September and December are huge months around here for us.
Right.
September with
Oh,
students
yeah.
coming back. But
Oh, July,
that formula that we
I thought it was
use-
July, thank you.
yeah, so we have sales tax in July.
Okay.
but we haven't
Okay.
received it.
Okay,
Okay. Thanks, it just seemed like.
Are they
Mhm.
short staffed again? I know I wasn't allowed to ask them, pester them before, sales tax.
Well, Rick Snyder retired.
is he retired
Oh,
now?
I didn't
We're
realize he was
searching
retired.
for a replacement.
That might be
Oh.
why we're waiting.
So there could be delays in
Yeah.
processing.
Yeah, right.
And how it's going, because he was the one doing all of that, sales tax distribution.
So he has retired. Or it's,
Or it's very close. I
Right.
thought November was when he was retiring.
Yeah.
So it was very close to being done, last correspondence I had. with him. So.
That's fine, thanks, it just, that makes a bit more sense.
mhm.
Anything else in DA? Not, we can move to DB on page 8. I have not heard from Rich. Just as well.
It's probably on the 7 o'clock program.
I'm sure so.
Thinking that that's the meeting.
What's going on in DB, Michelle?
DB is sort of the same thing with, you know, it's, a maintenance. A maintenance budget. A couple years ago, we started matching the highway capital improvement line, the DB 5112.2. We matched those expenses with chips. So if more chips are available and Scott knows that he has the capacity to do more, than what was budgeted, we'll see a budget modification, which I think we saw this year, so.
Yeah, we got more money from chips too this year, right? Than we originally.
It was rollover, and then there's always some special program,
Hot pool money.
right,
Oh.
right. They always have it, sometimes extreme weather or pave New York, there's always, so it's always chips. And then there's always some other state aid related to transportation that adds to that state aid money.
So what are the capital and repair reserves used for in the DB that instead of different than the DA? I always forget that.
Sure. So both are they're basically used for the same thing, except for that the repair reserve is more nimble. So in the state, in a case of emergency, say we have a road washout that we have to use reserve funds. The board can vote to use those funds in an emergency scenario, just to get the cash going. And then there's of course strings attached with that, which which is that I think we have to pay half of it back before the end of the year or something like that. But it's just a more nimble way to have money available for emergency purchases. But the intent of both of those are for road repairs. The capital reserve could be used for a financing tool if in a year we are realizing that we have more road work that's needed than what we can budget, which I'll say that just doing the paving and the culvert capital plan this year, we did not see that was likely going to be a problem anywhere in the near future, but really both the repair and the capital reserve, well, the repair reserve really is meant for extreme weather, road washout type.
So all the
events.
road work is in DB,
Yeah.
not DA.
Correct.
Okay, that's,
Yep.
yeah. Just what is parts of where I always forget.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, and in the DA fund, the capital reserve is just highway equipment.
right, okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Just, might as well have it on the recording
Yep,
so the public
yep.
knows. it's
Well,
out there.
I like to talk about reserves, especially our target funding amounts. Right now, our target funding amount for the repair reserve is, matches basically to extreme road washout expenses for that. So, 50 is what we could put in this year, but our goal is to get 100 or 200 in there, I think.
And you have 60 right now.
Right. Mhm.
With that 50.
Right. No, that would be, so the 60
Oh, at
is,
year end,
would
you have
be
60, so
110.
you'll have 110.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's getting up pretty close
Yeah,
to where you want.
correct.
Given what happened in culvert, what, a couple years ago?
Yeah, right.
So, real good idea
Yeah.
to have it.
And the reason that reserve, the repair reserve exists is due to Caitlin's suggestion the year before last.
Thank you for remembering. I did not remember myself.
I remember who has the good ideas, I'll tell you that much, like Michael with the lines. Everybody okay with moving along to the water districts?
Right, so we're increasing the amount of sales tax we're using in the DB a fair amount.
Well, so those proportions are based on, I think a 5 or 6 year average. And I really like to stick to that if possible, just so there's not these dramatic ebbs and flows. So, last year we actually, as you can see, used, less than the average distributed into that fund.
Mhm.
So we're just trying to right that ship a little bit.
Great, so we can move on to page
10.
10. Big page 10.
So not a ton of changes in water districts 1, 2, and 4. These are pretty simple funds. And so I'm not quite sure what needs to be pointed out here. Because they are quite simple.
And any minor change has a huge impact on
Right, right,
these users.
yeah.
So,
I will say in Water District 1, we're continuing the practice started a few years ago about setting money aside for repairs based on our contract with those users. So it's 3,000 a year, so that's continuing.
So, but the other ones don't need any repair reserve, like who's responsible for repairing? That's the big question that has to be ironed out, right? With what Caitlin was talking about at the previous
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
So until
that's our
that-
can of worms.
Until that is, we will just carry on as we are, and it might be a big adjustment for those
Yeah.
people in the coming year, but.
yeah, Water District 1 in particular.
Right.
4 as well.
Right. Well, and
So is the anticipated reserve balance at the end of this year gonna be about $2,000?
Which one are you on?
The repair reserve in 4,
4. No, that'll be what it is.
$1,000.
Yep, yep. There were some years, I don't know, maybe, and Carissa might remember this better than I. 5 to 7 years ago, there was, collections to those reserves, through property tax is how that accumulated.
I didn't catch it before. I'm assuming this is the typo, was 2021 in here, so it's between.
Oh, yes, good call, thank you.
No.
That's okay. A lot going on in this document.
That's mine.
Specifically checking. Or Michelle, but I missed them, so that's why.
No, that's just one. Two of them? That's okay. That's a place to make a mistake, is in the notes, and we can fix that.
yeah,
That's
if
minor.
that's the only mistake in here.
Yeah, we're good.
Pretty
I'll take
good. Yeah, take it. So those are something that's gonna be, because, I mean, that amount of thousands really does you nothing if you have to repair pipes. or
No, it does
something,
absolutely nothing.
Right?
Yep.
So that's gonna be something
Yeah, Yeah.
that's part of the issue that.
Yep.
The work you were talking about for next year is gonna be.
yeah. Based on the age of Water District 1, that's why I'm gonna focus first. And the
Right.
complication, Water District 2 might grow. I've heard mutterings that there might be interest on more water down in that section of 96. So it might be a Water District 1 could potentially grow down to McGuire's. But that's all,
But it would have to be a district form.
it would have to be a
That's
district
different,
form.
Because this isn't really.
Right,
a
but
real
but they might get absorbed into something existing might get absorbed. What we're calling Water District 2 might actually get absorbed into a formal district with other users, which would be good for them, I would imagine.
But those pipes are villages pipes, not towns, right?
I believe so, but I honestly cannot with any assurance.
Confirm or
I
deny.
cannot
Right.
guess.
I suspect they are not the towns, but yeah, so.
But I
that's
think they
gonna
might
be-
become the towns if we.
But I'm just
yeah.
saying, currently, we
No.
put those in or maintain them. Yeah.
So any other questions on these very basic?
Trying to figure those out is always
Yeah.
been fun.
So we have the water district 3, which is more complicated, but also. A maintenance one, for the most part.
Yeah, I would say so. The highlights of Water District 3. We've been talking about this need for the Radiohead project, which includes, the actual infrastructure of it. And then there's some software implementation that's implied by that. So that's a big project for next year for Water District 3. And I do believe, oh yeah, so, and then Carissa, jump in when you need to, but I believe that there may or may not be a need to transition to a new software for water billing. It's budgeted in here, and that's still being assessed. And then the other thing, which is a very small amount, but will increase our capacity in a huge way in Water District 3, is that we're going to be piggybacking on Bolton Point's ArcGIS software that has all of our Water District 3 assets mapped. So that will be a great capacity builder as far as water emergencies go. And we're hoping that it will lead to some streamlining of data management for the upcoming lead and copper testing regulations, which will need to be conducted in 2024. I will say there is a small amount of money on line 18 in Water District 3 for possibly like a student intern through the youth employment program to do some data entry related to the lead and copper testing in 2024. So we have a little bit of money in there. And in the engineering line on line 30, the SW3 8340.49, there's some funds in there meant for any engineering costs associated with getting ready for that required inventory, lead and copper inventory.
Can I ask a question on line 63 there, the ARPA funds federally?
Mhm.
So in 2022, it says the modified budget at 55,350, but it looks like that's not intended to be spent anymore, right?
Correct.
It's so, but 5,800
Yep, that's,
is
yep.
is what was already approved in the anode
Mhm.
bag,
which is happening tomorrow.
right? But wasn't that like, it was I thought it was like 7,000 or something.
There was a couple expenses that came up sort of around the same time, so I think you might be thinking of the Red Lion software that's needed for the graphic interface for,
okay.
yeah. But yeah, it was 78,000, and those numbers were all flying around. It all sort of was
7,800.
happening at the same time, yeah. That,
It was not 70.
That. yeah, 7,800.
7,800.
Yeah. So that 5,800 is the anode bag.
Okay.
Placement, yeah. Oh, wait, but
But because it says.
Right,
up
right,
to
right.
8K was the resolution. That's
Right.
why I was confused.
no,
'cause
I
it
think
was
you're right. I
7,000
think,
something.
yeah, I think you're right. Good call. That's, and then right there in the note, it says that 7867. So maybe I was the one who's getting those two mixed up.
So
yeah.
that number is really 7,867.
Yes. Yep,
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Thank you for pointing that out.
No worries, just trying to follow along.
Mhm.
It's a lot of numbers.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, so, I mean, I think overall, there was, this 3% increase here. I feel good about the way that this Water District 3 budget shook out. We have that gradually increasing debt that will be done at 2024. So this,
2024 is the last year of that thing,
mhm,
but it doesn't, it only increases a small, I mean, it's not
3,000,
a big,
right?
huge change.
Yeah.
Okay,
But for that tax levy, it is a big deal for how it impacts our tax cap,
but it's always
Um,
been there, so. yeah.
right? But yeah, this felt like this landed in a good place. I think we're in a good place with Water District 3 in general. Really looking forward to that debt dropping off and adding to reserves, because we weren't able to add to reserves this year, and all of those reserves are underfunded. So
So then some of the operation and maintenance costs will probably drop in the future, but not like to nothing, paying off the debt because you're gonna then accumulate money for reserve.
Yeah, right,
For all these things that there aren't, isn't money. for
Right.
there.
right.
Right.
Correct.
So it's probably a good thing to be having discussions or a little meeting with the water district people for 2023 to. sort of
Yeah.
Start explaining how things are gonna change
And,
in their favor, but still, you know. What the town's doing with the water district for, since it's. That's 30 years, or whatever it is, that thing is up.
mhm.
20, yeah.
Yeah, one thing that we, in anticipation of knowing that we're gonna have that flexibility in this budget to start adding to reserves more, one thing that we definitely need to do in the next couple of years is get the Water District 3 capital plan more fleshed out. So that's at a starting phase and just needs more attention.
Yeah, because we want to smooth the taxation. So that we're not dropping off completely.
Right,
only
yeah.
Then to surprise them 2 years
Yeah.
later, it's like, oh, and now we need to start
Right.
saving money, so.
Yeah, so that'd be great to have the meeting of all those folks once it's all hashed out a bit more, just to let them know. The good news and the changes and,
Right.
Well, and savings gonna be in their best interest long term.
oh, for sure.
So,
Well, and just having people understand the nature of how water districts work. And how you need to have the money there. It's a good thing. And then cities and stuff.
anything else in
Some budgets.
Water District 3? If not, we are. Been very efficient.
So none of these things change anything on the tax. The only things that changed it were the A fund decisions that are already reflected in this.
Yeah, the only thing that changed the tax levy situation was the decision to make changes to the tax levy in the SM fund, which I think was a super
Right.
wise choice.
Right.
But as far as anything that we discussed tonight, no, there are no changes to the tax levy.
So this is what it is now, if we
Yep.
decide to go as a preliminary.
Yep.
In the next meeting.
And the only thing that would change, I have the updated verbiage for the B fund in the resolution that were.
Okay.
So I can, how do you want me, do you want me to
You
print
just
that
print it
off
out
for
for everybody?
everybody?
Yeah.
You got it.
That would be.
If everyone feels good about it, where we're at. And I'll leave what's in red, is the tax levy, well, I'll change that. What's in red is what we spoke about tonight, so.
When's the last time the tax rate's gone down?
I don't know, there is a tax rate history, I do have that,
I meant to ask you that before.
I
The
do have
levy
that
hasn't
somewhere.
gone- The levy hasn't gone down, the
Right.
tax rate, yeah,
Right.
and for some people it won't.
Right.
Their taxes. won't
Well,
go
yeah,
down.
because when you increase assessment or people
Right.
build new houses.
Right. It's very
It gets
difficult.
spread over a bigger population.
Right, predict how it affects any individual person.
And we are not seeing a slowdown in new building. So. Code officer has been quite busy.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, if we think we're done, the plan will be to get this done by the end of the day Thursday. As far as the preliminary budget, the final document for the, that would be considered the preliminary budget, so. That'll be sent to everybody and posted on the website.
Do you need to dash away to do anything or maybe just
Nope.
didn't make any changes?
Yeah,
It's-
nope, we're good.
Yep.
So just the wording of the resolutions for the next meeting, if we want to.
Yep.
Push this to.
Yep, I will print that out now, I'm just waiting. In case there's anything else. Thank you.
Are we having a meeting next week or? Is that at the next?
November
It
8th,
was-
public
okay,
hearing.
Right, yeah,
Oh,
there
okay.
was, no, we had a tentative holding space for meeting
tomorrow.
for tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
so no meeting.
And no meeting
In
tomorrow.
case the budget.
Cool. All right, well, I'll print this update and it just, the only thing that will be different from what you received in the budget, the agenda packet is the B fund stuff, and that'll be in red, so. I'll send you the digital version of it. Do you want a hard copy? Okay. Does everyone want a hard copy?
I think probably makes sense for everybody to have a hard copy.
Cool.
Just so we're all working from the same document. And then don't have to worry about emailing it. So if there's nothing more, I'll accept a motion to adjourn our special meeting.
So moved. Second?
Well, there you go.
Great job.
Now we have 15 minutes to party.
Exactly.